The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. If you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Welcome to the Influencer's Edge. This is the place where you come to get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques to leapfrog over the pack in sales, persuasion, and influence. Be sure you visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now sit back, tune in, and enjoy today's episode. All right, welcome to the Influencer's Edge. Today's guest, it seems, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what order you're listening or watching these episodes, but if you're sequentially watching them, you may have noticed that many of my guests are people who I know personally or who I've worked with before. And today's guest, Rich Schefren, is no exception to that. Rich, actually, I met or got in contact with Rich in 2006. Rich was my very first online entrepreneurial coach. He's been doing this for a long time. He's well worth the money I invested with him. So Rich, we'll go through your very, no pun intended, rich biography, and then we'll jump right into it. But 2 of the things we want to talk about today, because Rich is the guy, he's been around since 2006 with online marketing.
2001 or 2, actually.
Wow, 2001, 2002. You are definitely the old school guy with updated current ideas. I really want to talk to you today about what's working and what's no longer working that worked even 2 or 3 years ago, and how attention spans are shortened, because you know all this stuff. So I'm going to fire quickly through your biography, and then we'll get right to you. So let us go to it. I have it on my phone. All right, man, there's a lot here. So Rich Schefren is known as the guru to gurus because he is the coach behind many of today's top online marketers early in their career. He was my coach, my very first. Russell Brunson. Who's Russell Brunson? No one's ever heard of him.
Yeah.
Of ClickFunnels, Ryan Deiss of Digital Marketer, countless others. He's the only consultant to the planet with $1 billion testimonials. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not 100 million, that's 1 billion. I don't know what kind of chunk you took of that, but that probably affords you a Volkswagen Beetle at the very least. I don't know where you live, but it's expensive to live everywhere in the U.S.
You know what it got me? Well, it got me a nice paycheck, but it also got me back there, and I can pull it if you want to see it. It got me Conor McGregor's left-hand glove from UFC 205 when he won the double championship. So,
you know,
that was a gift, like from Conor.
What Conor doesn't tell people is in the beginning of his career, I lent him $500 to start training, and he didn't pay me back. So I kicked his ass and made him cry and begged him to stop hitting him, and he wet himself. So Conor, you owe me that money. I think you can tell I'm fibbing. And he's responsible for his clients raking in an additional $15 billion in increased sales. You all are lucky because he still offers private coaching and consulting to select clients, and it's his favorite activity inside his business. Rich went on to write the first viral PDF, the Internet Business Manifesto, which I don't remember. This was so long ago. It was 18 years ago. I first heard about you from that. I downloaded that, and that's how I became your client, your favorite client. No,
Mhm. Mhm.
and so let's dive in. You've been
Yeah.
around a long time, a long
Mhm.
time. You've seen fads come, you've seen fads go. One of the things I want to talk to you about is a phenomena I've noticed. I I admit it, I am a scroller. I
Mhm.
scroll on Instagram far too often, and I'm trying to cut down. I spend 2 hours a day on a iPhone fast where I just turn off the iPhone. But I see offers for online marketers, coaches, consultants. We will add 50 new clients into your sales funnel in 90 days, or you don't pay. Those kind of things. First of all, are those things scams?
Most of them, I would say at this point I would say probably the first couple people that did it were probably genuine and it worked. And now it doesn't. And people are kind of um, trying to use a tactic that was once effective that now everybody and their brother is doing and therefore no longer works. And so therefore I would imagine the people behind it are somewhat scammy. The, what I would say is this, along these lines, like, I've been around a long time, but I actually left for a couple years. And what happened for me was that, I was the business coach to those guys and stuff, and I did really well with that. And but my life didn't change until I wrote that report. And when I wrote that report, my whole business life changed and my life changed. Like I went from making like 30,000 a month to making, like 7 figures a month. And the following year, I wrote reports for like the next 18 months. And every time I wrote a report, like millions of dollars came in. And those were like the first lead magnets. And, now if I were to write a report, like it would not do anything like that anymore. And
Why is that, Rich? Tell us why.
because, well, I'll get to that because actually that's where I want to take us for a minute. I want to pull up something. I
Sure.
haven't spoken about this in a little while, but like it's actually great timing. Well, it's cool timing to talk about this because it's near and dear to my heart. The following year is when I brought the VSL to Agora, and that's what it grew Agora, this big info publisher at the time, from 200 million to 1.2 billion in a year. But that style of VSL, um,
Video
when I first
sales letter.
the
Excuse
video
me,
sales
for those
letter,
who don't know, it's video sales letter.
that style of VSL gave them a 400% increase in response when I brought it over to them. But over a 7 year period of time, it went to a zero increase in response. And the following year is when I invented the automated webinar. And same thing happened in my business again. We went like another big leap. And I gave that software to Mike Filsain, and he created Webinar Jam from it. I gave it to Kern. I gave it to a few other people, and everyone's business skyrocketed, mine as well. And then that made me more money than I ever thought I'd make in my life. And by 2012, like I was no longer needed in my business really. All I had to do was just show up for my weekly coaching calls. And so I felt like I had kind of abandoned my wife because I had focused all my time on my business. And so now, like, there was time for me to live this life of luxury with my wife and my ex-wife, if that gives you any signal of where this story's going. And when I came back and like, let's do all this stuff together, she said, well, I had to kind of build my own life while you focused on business. I kind of consider myself a happily married single person.
Wow.
And I don't really want to do those things. And so we're still like really close friends, but we're no longer married because that was not what I wanted. And had a midlife crisis. And then at that moment, I decided to kind of unplug from the internet, kept my clients like Agora and a few other private clients. I generally have like between 5 or 10 private clients. That's about it. And it wasn't until 2017, 18 when I was in a Nicaragua with Agora, and they said they wanted to be online. Like they wanted to have a business focused on online marketing, that I then sold them half my business. And then like a year or two later, it was time for me to like re-enter the market. And when it came time to re-enter the market, I had to think about like, who did I want to be now? Because what I used to do, like teaching business process, business strategy, systems, and theory of constraints and business optimization and those kinds of things, when I taught them, I really felt like I was providing the people who I was teaching an advantage. And because most people didn't know those things. And nowadays, I feel like that's just anti to the game. That doesn't give you an advantage. That's what's necessary. And so I didn't want to just get back in the game to do that. I've always prided myself on the results I've gotten my clients, and I wouldn't get back into the business if I'm just going to be doing the same thing. And so I really had to think about my experience and what I've done and what got people results other than that. And when I thought about it, it was like, my free report, that first free report, the webinar, the VSL that I brought to Agora. And what I realized, and I want to just show you this graph, is that, and it's like, looks like it was made out of like Microsoft Paint because I'm not an artist or anything like that. But is that every strategy that like took me to another level or took a client of mine to another level was a strategy or tactic in marketing online that was early in its innovation process. Like it was early in its life cycle. And so therefore it commanded a little bit of extra attention, and that attention then translated into better results. But the yellow line represents results. And so over time, every tactic, every strategy, everything done online degrades as it goes from very few people using it to lots of people using it.
Yep.
And the amount of skill to get a result with it goes up over time.
Yep.
So like a sales letter that you write today has to be 20 times better than a sales letter that you had to write like in 2005 to make sales. And that's just because the blue line, the skill level involved or the effort, energy, et cetera, goes up. So you have results go down, you have effort goes up. And so when I kind of made that realization, what I wanted to do when I got back online was to create something where I delivered to people strategies and tactics that were on the left-hand side of that diagram, like before everyone else is using it, early in its development. And so I created something, a program, or not a program, a subscription service called Steal Our Winners. And that's grown over the last couple of years. I bought the company back from Agora because I like kind of doing it myself, but it's now a platform. We publish 104 episodes a year. We have about 250 to 300 contributors. And we publish twice a week strategies and tactics that are currently crushing it that most people don't know about yet. And so what I would say is, so I have a unique perspective and I love what I do because, when I first started online, like I used to buy courses, I used to study courses and all that kind of stuff. And nowadays I get the benefit of having people who first discovered something coming and teaching me it before everyone knows about it. And they're excited because they're getting great results from it. So I have this, and that's great for me because it makes it very easy for me to help my clients because I know what's working everywhere, right? But it also gives me a unique perspective to be able to kind of look above it all and see what are the patterns that I'm seeing.
What are those patterns?
Yeah. So what I would say is like, sometimes someone makes a throwaway comment on one of these episodes and it's a throwaway comment to them, but it's not a throwaway comment to me. It's like a deep, profound thing to say.
Yep.
And so there was this guy, Donnie French, who I did a great episode with. And he's a copywriter. And he said something that, like, just as he was in passing, that an offer is only as good as the creative that you can make around it. And to me, as an old-time direct response person who's been doing direct response for over 30 years, when I the creative always involved the offer. Like when I ran a newspaper ad, the newspaper ad had the offer in it. When I did a classified ad, the classified ad was the offer. But nowadays, right, like you have to get traffic off a platform into your offer. And so the creative is really the bridge to that. Now, about 5 years ago or 4 years ago, when I started Steal Our Winners, that put me in touch with like a lot of the top media buyers out there. And so there's this one guy, Nick Shackelford, who was running a 9-figure Facebook agency back then, and it's still a 9-figure plus agency. And 4 or 5 years ago, he created a second agency that just focused on creative. And I said, why are you doing that? And he said, it's only a matter of time until we lose all options in media buying, and algorithms and AI take more of those options.
Yes,
And
sir.
so it's going to be determined by the creative. And I want to have an agency that just does creative. So he was very premonition about what was coming. About 2 years ago, I did an episode with another top media buyer. His name is Jordan Menard. And he said, a lot of media buyers think that to get the cream of the market, it's about creating the right lookalike audience or the right targeting. And he's like, my experience is telling me that it's none of those things. And I'm like, interesting. Okay, tell me more. And he shared an episode where he took a client who was paying $2.79 a click down to 79 cents a click, and while the CPMs were going up, so better and better audience.
Can you unpack that acronym for those in my audience who don't know what
Cost
that
per 1,000 impressions, right? Okay. So that's just so if it's a way of evaluating an audience. There's an audience that costs you $30 per 1,000 impressions. That's one barrier, right? Another one might be $40. It means that audience is worth more in some way, shape, or form.
Correct.
Right? So he saw that the CPMs were going up, even though the cost per click was going down, which is that doesn't really make sense, but nonetheless. And he found that when you hit these 3 metrics, this is what tends to happen. And the metrics were 40% stop scroll, which is a big number, right? 5% over 4% click through anything. And that doesn't mean clicking through to an ad. That means they stopped. If it's a video, they turned on the volume, they emoted, they pressed comment, they did something that interacted with the ad, and 3% click through. And when those 3 metrics were hit, the price plummeted, but the audience got much more valuable. And it makes sense, because if Facebook wants people to engage on their platform, those are all metrics of engagement. So nowadays, the performance of most ad campaigns come down to just 2 things, right? They come down to the performance of the creative, and it comes down to the data that you push back into the platform, right? Because there's a few more elements to that. What I would say is this, is that just now hopefully this makes sense. If it doesn't, stop me, right? An early episode I did in Steal Our Winners, this was a media buyer at Agora. We had a webinar that was at 20% break even, right? So we're losing 80%. It's not good. The optimization, we were telling Facebook what the goal was registrations. Okay. When we changed the optimization, what the goal was, right? Instead of registrations, but to what we call an SLO, which is a self-liquidating offer, which is the book by the person who's doing the webinar for $7, right? Because we found a correlation between the people that bought that and the people that actually show up on the webinar and buy.
That makes sense.
We paid more per lead, but the webinar went from 20% break even to 200% break even.
Let me pause you just a second. All of this is incredible data, and Rich here is condensing information that's worth millions and millions of dollars. I'm sure you invested a lot of time and money to figure this stuff out. What I want to do is paint more broad and general picture here. I like the graph that you put up, that you screen shared. It makes a lot of sense to me. How much of this stuff, again, like VSLs, you said something interesting. You said, and forgive me if I'm misquoting you, and please correct me if I am, it's not my intent. You said something along the lines that people don't read free reports, or people don't, is that
no, it's not that. It's just that it won't capture attention. You have to, if you are starting an online business or you have an online business in any way, shape, or form, competition is fierce online,
Right.
right? And so in order to get momentum, you have to have some advantage. Like advantages can come from a couple different places. It can come from superior messaging, but that is very, very difficult. There are like, I don't want to diminish that that's possible, but it's not probable for most people to have
Oh,
far superior messaging, right?
no.
You could also leverage a strategy or tactic early in its development, right? Like that's what I provide, and that can do it. And then there's another element that you either have or don't have. I don't have it, but have an it factor. Like I have a friend who, when he learned internet marketing, instead of him being the guru, he went out and found people that had the it factor, right? Like his clients, like the three people he publishes are Wes Watson, a guy on YouTube that like blew up, Michael Francis, another guy on YouTube that blew up, and this guy Tim for a brand called Beyond Driven that blew up on TikTok. Because if you have the it factor, right, then you don't need anything else. Everything else is
The
like
it factor.
downhill.
Like Alex from Mozoy.
Alex Hormozy has the it factor,
Yes.
right? Like, and so like whatever Alex promotes, he's going to do well. Like
Yeah.
that's just how Frank Kern has the it factor,
Yep.
right? Like, so you
My
either have the
alter
it
ego.
factor.
My
Yeah.
alter ego, Ross Jeffries, the pickup
Yeah.
guru, has
Yeah,
it.
has that as well. So like you either have to have that, you have to have a marketing strategy before everyone else, or you have to have superior messaging. Those are the only three ways that I know of. I'm not saying that those are the only three ways, but those are the only three ways I know of
Wow.
that actually give you an advantage. Now, like VSLs, video sales letters, right? The reason why I knew they would work right out of the gate was that not because people aren't readers, although most people aren't, is that like there used to be a tool. I mean, there's a tool, there's something called not video analytics, because that's like looking at your pay, like how the actual video is performing. But there's tools where you put JavaScript on a web page, and then you get to see videos of how people are interacting with the actual web page, right? Tools today like Lucky Orange do that. Back 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I used to use a tool called like ClickView or ClickTail. I don't think they're even
Clicktail.
around
Yep.
anymore.
Clicktail. I
But
remember.
when I used to watch people, right, they would land on a sales letter, they would read the headline, they would then scroll all the way to the bottom, right? They would look at the price, then they would start scrolling up, they'd stop at things that were interesting. I'm not a great salesperson, never have been. I became a great marketer so that I wouldn't have to be a good salesperson, because I already knew that like if I could market to make selling somewhat superfluous, then then it's easy to sell. But like I'm just not good at selling. I'm good at marketing. But what I do know about selling is that if you give control to the prospect, then it's much harder to sell. Like, and so the video sales letter, what it did was it took back control over the sales conversation, because someone couldn't scroll to the bottom and find out the price and go through it at their own, right? Like it took back control. Now, video sales letters still work, but if you want like an increase in response, right? There's different kinds of video sales letters that work today than what used to work, right? So there's a gentleman by the name of Peter Kell, and Peter Kell developed a video sales letter that's much more documentary style. And those play like that blew up Mind Valley. And they were so good that they played on YouTube. So that reduced the number of clicks that had to happen. Every click is friction. And so now someone is being sold, they don't even know they're being sold. And those kind of video sales letters crush it, right? Those are much more expensive to do. That's that blue line going up, right? To get the same result. But yeah, those are fire away, because I don't want to go too deep into the weeds. I want to make sure that I provide as much value as I can for your people.
No. As a matter of fact, you provided so much value that we're out of time.
Wow.
This is, we have to have you back. I know you're a busy man. It took months to schedule you because you're super, super busy. But would you come back on so we can
I'd
unpack
love
more of
to.
this?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so stay on because I want to have a brief
Okay.
chat with you after we agree and chat. Uh, so our guest, Rich Schefren, I know you are going to want to stay in the conversation with Rich. Rich, what do you got so people can stay in the conversation with you?
If you know what, well, there's two things. One is that we have a free trial to steal our winners, right? And that's at strategicprofits.com. Same, my name of my company, right? Strategicprofits.com. And there's like a 1 week free trial. People can watch some episodes, see if it resonates with them, and see if they want to then continue on. And then the other thing is, based on what I was sharing about how creative is the end all be all, right? These days, I just started like last week. Like I was very hesitant. I didn't really want to. But I'm just starting now to post a shitload like of reels like on Instagram myself. And the reason I'm doing it is not because I want to be some social media star, right? It's more so that my team and I can learn about what does work organically,
Right.
because like it's much cheaper to figure out what works organically before we spend a bunch of money on ads. Because like if you can't capture attention organically, then you're lying to, you're fooling yourself. That it doesn't mean that you couldn't create ads that work. It just means that the ads that you are using, you're paying much more than what you need to pay, because you're making up for money what you lack in your ability to grab and hold attention. And I don't want to do that. So on Instagram, but I'm on TikTok, I'm on everyone, but like Instagram is the one I'm focused on the most. It's just the real Rich Schefren, just to see me evolve, right? Because what you're going to see is just me posting reels. You're going to see those reels change over time based on the results that we're getting. And with the goal of what we're looking at is how much are we like I'm starting from like a low number. Like I get 1,000 people lucky, like to watch a reel. But the goal is that we learn more and more. And so you're going to see the style change. You're going to see how I present change. You're going to see the topics I talk about change, for this very reason that creative is the name of the game today. And if you can't grab and hold attention in short form,
Yes.
you're at a loss.
Yes.
You're just at a
Something
loss.
I teach that the currency of any kind of selling, influence, persuasion, seduction is focus. And you just can't grab focus the way you used to. Rich, stay on. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. And we'll catch you next time on The Influencer's Edge. The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. If you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Thank you for tuning in to The Influencer's Edge, where you get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques so you can leapfrog over the pack in sales, influence, and persuasion. Remember to visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com to enjoy even more great episodes like this one. We look forward to seeing you again on The Influencer's Edge Show.